The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Dom.
And Pat Scott. Hey, Pat.
Greetings and salutations.
Before we get into today's show, I want to tell everyone about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy, and it's the right time to check it out. It's called Secrets of Middle-earth, which with a brand new season of Rings of Power about to come out, you'll want to start listening to that because they're going to be discussing every episode as it arrives. So check that out wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth. So our main topic for today is we're going to be talking about inexpensive security cameras, cheap cameras. These days, it's not beyond reason to think that the average home, the cameras have gotten cheap enough that the average home could have cameras set up around it to protect your home. And I have cameras. I invested in Ring a number of years ago. Kind of wish I had something different because Ring cameras are expensive. And you have to pay for a plan to store the video. And there may come a time in the not too distant future where I don't have Ring cameras. I have something else. Actually, maybe after the show. So we want to talk about cameras that are less expensive, that are within reach of most people for your home security, both indoor and outdoor. And let's just start by kind of surveying. I don't want you to give away your home security, but how familiar are you with security cameras, Victor?
Yeah, so about 15 years ago, 10 or 15, more than 10 years ago, about 15 years ago, I picked up some Foscam Wi-Fi cameras, and these were the kind that, they looked like an aluminum cylinder that was about 5 inches in diameter, about 10 inches long. They looked like a security camera. They had a big antenna on the back. They had Ethernet ports, and I think they had like maybe 480p resolution on them. So they weren't exactly, high definition, but I had those, on my garage. And I thought it was a lot of fun just to be able to log into, a web interface on my browser or set up little, security or video servers on my computer to record, the DVR type things on my computer to record video. And I kind of liked that. And so, fast forward, we have a security system, which is provided by, a national, security type company. And there are a few cameras we have with that. But if you want to add more cameras, they are hundreds of dollars, and they have to be professionally installed in that particular case. And so a few years ago, my sister was interested in having some security cameras, and I started looking around, and Wise at that time had their current version 2, little cube camera, and that was about $20. So I figured for $60 you can get enough and to cover the home, and you buy a little $5 or $10 plastic case on Amazon so you can mount it outside. And she's had some Wise cameras, and I've had some Wise cameras mounted outside now for probably 5 or 6 years, and they're still going, in all the elements and stuff. But those have gotten more expensive. Wise cameras have, and I'm not really a fan of their pricing strategy. So I was looking around for some other options, and that's when Father Joseph, who I do this podcast with, mentioned some alternatives, namely those by TP-Link, and that's kind of where I am now.
Okay. And Pat, do you have much experience with home security cameras or anything?
We have our our Google Nest doorbell camera. Mm-hmm. That's it. Okay. I have never put anything else up.
Okay. As I mentioned, I have a Ring doorbell, and that kind of led me to getting the Ring cameras. and I have coverage around the outside of the house. I was saying before the show that I have indoor cameras, but I never have them plugged in except when we're away. I just don't feel comfortable having cameras on the inside of the house like that. So the Ring cameras are okay. They're all battery powered. So once a month I have to get on ladders and around the house, and I tried solar panel with one of them once, and it was fine in the summer, but come winter it was pretty useless. There just wasn't enough daylight during the sunlight during the day to recharge it to for 24 hours, this sort of thing. So I'm not super attached to them, and the quality of the image isn't. To me, it doesn't feel it justifies the expense, because it's an ongoing subscription expense. You have to pay, monthly or annually for each camera that you add, and it's way too expensive. It's easy, because it's Amazon, but it's just I don't love it. So let's talk about some of the considerations when you're thinking about getting a camera. And one of the top considerations is the video quality. Like you said, Victor, your first camera was 480p. I mean, I remember watching 480p video on YouTube. In fact, folks, if you want to see what 4D looks like, you can open up any video and change the video quality down to 480 and remember how bad that was. And now imagine that, on a cloudy day or whatever, you'll see that there are maybe people there, but you're not going to see faces, and you're certainly not going to see license plates or stuff like that. So you really want to be looking at what I saw online said 1080p minimum, but I think really 2K is really the sweet spot. You can go up to 4K video, which is really high resolution, but I think 2K is pretty good, at least for outdoor cameras. Because then you're going to be able to see things. You want that, especially stuff that's not right up close to the camera in less than ideal lighting conditions. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on the video quality.
Yeah, I think that 1080p is good enough for what I'm doing. I'm in the suburbs, and so I don't necessarily want to get a lot of detail far away, because that's the neighbor's house. I have all of my cameras angled down, though, so that they don't. That's the other thing, too. There's a whole etiquette/legality thing when you set up security cameras outside your house. Don't point them in your neighbor's yard. Don't point them at your neighbor's swimming pool. Make sure that they're covering your property, and as much as possible, nothing else. And so at the distances I'm using, I'm not shooting into the street or anything where I'm going to need to track license plates or anything. I just want to know if somebody's, coming up on my porch or running around the cars. And for that, at the distances I'm using, it's 1080p is good enough. I haven't really had a need for 2K cameras, but with the prices of those coming down, it's something I'm going to be experimenting with soon, just to see if there's a big difference.
I did help a client of mine who had a commercial establishment that somebody had arson, they had committed arson, and she had security cameras around there. But the quality, this was about 5 years ago, and the quality was such that you could not see enough detail of the person who set the fire driving away in their truck, except to find out, it was a truck. But that's about all. You couldn't see the face. You couldn't see the license plate. You couldn't even really tell the color because it was at night. And so it was pretty useless. They didn't really help them find the guy who did it.
When you're talking about that image quality, it's really the nighttime stuff I feel like are the really important ones, because most of the stuff you're trying to capture is going to happen at night, right, under the cover of darkness, and B, that's when the you just don't have good quality. Like I want to be able to see if people are creeping around my cars, and where my current camera is now, it kind of it sends out, so it uses infrared at night. But it also has a light on it, so that it can also turn on the light and you'll see color. But where it's under the eaves, it sort of creates a reflection off the eave, and it reduces the quality. And it's like, that's an important consideration when you're trying to, like when you're placing a camera too. How does it look, not just during the day, but at night? But yeah, the nighttime quality, I feel like you got to be able to see a face or see a license plate at night. I think those are the two important ones.
Yeah, and most of the cameras now, even the inexpensive ones, certainly I think the Wise version 3 camera, which is $35, and some of the Tapo ones have, but don't quote me on that. The ones I have color night vision now. So, even though they're using infrared light, somehow the camera's, parsing the information it gets back as color. So it's,
Nice.
it looks just like almost like a sort of an impressionistic, painting of what you'd see during the day. But yeah, I mean, color night vision has really come down in price too, along with the, we're living in a golden age of, image sensors, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So another thing to think about is video storage. And there's basically 3 types of video storage: on device, on network, so storing somewhere locally on your network on some sort of computer device, and in the cloud. So you could have on device storage like an SD card. This is the cheapest way to go. It's usually, if you have on device, you could still monitor it over Wi-Fi. It's not just on the device. Maybe an app connects to it and you can download the video from the camera. But you can also do something where you have set up a software on a computer or on network attached storage. For example, Synology network, NASA's have Synology, I think it's called Camera Station or IP Station or something like that. And they connect with all kinds of different cameras, and it looks like a home, like a commercial, video monitoring situation, a closed circuit system like you see, with multiple cameras visible on one screen. Yeah, like you see in the movies. The cost of that one is really the NAS, the cost of the computer or whatever it is that's running it 24/7. And you have to have plenty of storage space to store all the video. Probably the most expensive one is cloud storage, which is what I have with Ring. And some of the other ones use those as well. So you get the subscription costs, and a lot of the stuff I was looking at said basically the sweet spot for cloud storage is you're looking for a service that gives you 14 plus days of video history. So they keep the last 14 days of history. And you're looking for something under $10 a month. It's really a sweet spot. And even then, $10 a month can be expensive. So
that's kind of also why I stopped using Wise cameras, because they were pushing a lot more of their services, I think even including some of their AI, detection, and certainly their cloud storage. They were moving to paid services, and it was getting up to $10 per camera per month. Which
per camera. Wow.
Yeah, which when you have like 3 or 4 cameras, it's like,
it adds up quick.
So, so I've been playing around as I will talk about these TP-Link cameras under their Tapo brand, TAPO. And I just looked, I have 3 of those in use right now. And I just looked, and their cloud thing is $12 for up to 10 cameras. So less than $1.20 per camera if you have 10 cameras. And it's unlimited storage. So,
wow.
I'll try that out and report back on how that works. But so 10 cameras for $12, unlimited storage. Who knows how long they'll keep that going, but it's definitely the best deal out there I've seen.
And for Apple users, if you have an iCloud subscription, you can use some of your iCloud storage with HomeKit secure video cameras, cameras that support HomeKit secure video. So you don't use a third-party service; it goes into your iCloud storage where it's private. They don't have access. The camera company doesn't have access, and you're already paying for whatever iCloud storage you have. So it's just part of that. So that's a possibility as well. I'll have a link to an article from iMore that lists all the different security indoor and outdoor cameras that have HomeKit secure video support as of today. So that's another consideration is the storage. In addition to night vision, one of the things that comes up sometimes is motion detection. So if they're recording all the time, then they're draining battery and using up your storage. So ideally, you only want it to record when there's something to record, and you don't always wanted to record every motion. So, for example, I have a bush that's right under one of my Ring cameras, and in the summer, and the bush waves. Hey, there's something outside. Or we have lots of bunnies and squirrels. And they've gotten, some of the systems have gotten better at only alerting when it's a human. It doesn't alert on dogs or wild animals or waving bushes. And then you can also adjust zones, like within the field of view of this camera is the street. So you can use the software to mark out the street and saying, ignore any motion in the street so that cars driving by don't activate it. That's one of the things that they added to the Ring doorbell, which was nice because every time someone drove down our suburban street, it would go off. It was annoying. So the motion detection, and now this, like, as you mentioned briefly, Victor, like they now have like AI, things that are determining human beings as opposed to, other things.
For free, once you buy their cameras, the Tapo app does, the cameras in the app do have different levels. They have very good, human being people detection. Like even at great distances, it can detect a human being. But in addition to that, they also have pet detection and vehicle detection. So if you want to specifically detect vehicles or, your pet running around, you can set that up as well. And I have flags in our front yard, and they're waving all the time. And so far, it has not triggered on the flags waving, which was always very frustrating with the other cameras, or you have a flag waved in front of it. The other thing I will say, though, is we mentioned briefly SD card storage for your cameras. And I would recommend that if you do have a camera that can record to an SD card, that you do pop that in and have it continuously recording to the SD card. Because nowadays, as criminals have gotten more sophisticated, they're using signal jammers to basically knock out Wi-Fi signals. So your Wi-Fi cameras become useless in that case, because if all they're doing is communicating with the cloud, there's no cloud left for them to communicate to. But at least if you have an SD card in there, it doesn't help you at the time. And if they grab the cameras, there's really nothing you can do. But if they miss a camera, you can always at least grab the SD card out of the camera and have something. So if you do have the option of using an SD card in your camera, 128 gigabyte cards are relatively cheap, $15. Bake that into the cost of your camera. Granted, in some cases, it'll double the price of your camera, but it'll give you some backup there if
more useful.
Yeah, and then think about camera placement as well too. Sometimes outside, maybe you want them obvious and visible so that it's a deterrent at that point.
Yeah.
But inside, if you do have cameras inside, maybe you want those to be a little bit more hidden, because once somebody's inside your house, they're no longer really deterred. Yeah. At that point.
That's where you want some of the smaller ones that are available now. Yeah, those are good. One option, so all of these things can add expense. So just keep that in mind. But one option to think about is the two-way audio. Where you could speak to someone and they could speak back. The video doorbells already do that, but you could have this with other cameras as well. I don't know. I don't I could yell at a guy in my backyard, I suppose. Usually it's me
good looking. We'll be back to pick you up later. Like Mr. Microphone.
Mr. Microphone. We literally had one of those when I was a kid.
I mean, I think they're fun to mess with the kids maybe, but the other thing that the Tapos have those, at least the ones I do outside. And the other fun thing that they have is they have an alarm mode where I guess I haven't tried this out, but if you have it detect motion, it can play, the alarm sound really, really loud.
Yes.
So that might be another good deterrent as well.
Yeah. If you live in the country, further away from my neighbors than I am, or your neighbors than I am away from my neighbors. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes use the two-way audio to call kids in for dinner, that sort of thing, just so I can be lazy and not get up from my chair. But, I haven't found much other use for it. You want to make sure that there's a decent app for it, whatever the case is, an app for your phone, so you can check your cameras when you're away and download video and do the various things you need to do. The Ring cameras are pretty good for that. They also have the Neighbors app that comes with Ring, where you don't have to be a Ring camera owner to use the Neighbors app, but it's this app that covers your neighborhood and people can post there. You can post your video there and say, hey, be on the lookout for this. I live next to a couple of towns with a high crime rate. So the people are constantly like, look, these suspicious guys were walking around my cars at 2:00 in the morning last night. I'm like, all right, did you call the cops? Like, what are we going to do? They don't. It surprises me how little these guys seem to care that they're on camera. Probably because they know no one's coming for them. But the mobile app, take a look at it, download it, make sure it's got, all the features that you're going to want.
Yeah. And I think this is probably a good place to mention kind of the app ecosystem, or what are you actually buying into, which is kind of a mixed bag nowadays. Most of these cameras are proprietary systems, if not proprietary video formats. They're designed to be encrypted. And so they're very hard to integrate with like a homegrown home assistant, Raspberry Pi program, which is what I have. So haven't found a way to do it yet with the Tapo cameras. Maybe Father-Son can help me with that. But, most of them will integrate with Alexa, but not many people have the show to actually like pop it up. I don't know. So there may be ways to integrate it into, we'll talk about like HomeKit or whatever. But the one thing I do like about the Tapo cameras is I have a lot of their Casa, smart devices, switches and stuff, and I can control it from the Tapo app, the switches at least. So, yeah.
Let me tell you something about with the Echo Show, because that's one of the reasons I got one to test out. I wanted to watch the Ring video, like the doorbell thing on it, at my desk without having to find my phone and pull it up. It's slow. Like if, the doorbell rings and I'm like, Echo, show me the front door. And like, by the time I get the video footage up, the person's gone. Like they're like, oh, they're not coming to the door. Like it is slow. It is not fast. And it's annoying because that's one of the reasons I got that. So, you kind of, you want to make sure that the cameras connect with the ecosystem that you're using. The HomeKit secure video, it can pop up on your Apple TV. So while you're watching TV, you can have it pop up, or in the Home app on your phone or iPad. So it is really nice that way. It does integrate into the HomeKit system. So another consideration is connectivity, both kinds, both internet and power. So do you want to use Wi-Fi, which most of them use? If you want to do like Ethernet, that's especially given where some of these are going to be located up in eaves and stuff like that, it's trickier to get to run Ethernet all over the place. I mean, if you already have Ethernet running all over your house, maybe that's just drilling a hole through an eave. But then there's also the consideration of power. Do you want batteries or wired? And both have trade-offs. Battery is, like I said, getting up on a ladder once a month or every other month and swapping batteries. Whereas power, you've got to hire somebody to come out and run power to the location. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, I've used both. I do like to run power, even the Ys, which are powered with like a USB-C cable. You can buy like a really long 20-foot one. Mm-hmm. Some of the other cameras use like a barrel jack connector. And at that point, if it's just your garage or something, you just drill a hole over the eave of your over your door, just plop power cable through that and then patch it up with caulk and stuff. Going through your house, it's maybe a little bit more complicated, but if all you're doing is mounting it on your garage and you have an outlet inside your garage that you can use, that's pretty easy to just run a power cable out. So most of mine are powered. I am experimenting with the one that uses a battery, a Tapo. It says the thing is, it's not recording continuously. It's motion activated. So once it detects motion, then it records the event. Unless you pull it up in the app and then it knows to just, show you what's happening live. Mm-hmm. But it has a pretty robust battery in it that it says can last like 180 days. Their 2K version, I think, will last even longer. And then a solar panel. So, in direct sunlight, it says it can fully charge the battery or give enough battery charge for a day rather in like 40 or 45 minutes. We'll see, as you mentioned, with the winters here. What happens to that in the wintertime? Yeah. Especially since I couldn't get a straight, southern exposure on the solar panel. So
Yeah.
I'll let you know what happens with that, but the battery itself seems pretty robust.
It's especially when the snow covers it. Like we had last year, our entire February had snow covering the whole roof, the whole winter, the whole month. And it was like I had my home solar 0 output. So yeah, you get it, that becomes an issue. We mentioned, there are indoor cameras and outdoor cameras, and sometimes you can take an indoor camera and slap it inside a case and make it an outdoor camera. But outdoor cameras generally are a little more expensive because they need to, stand the weather, whether you're down south and it's hot or whether you're up north and it gets cold. And the cold is especially an issue with batteries. Cold. Yeah. Is it cold that kills batteries or heat?
Oh, both.
Yeah.
Extreme cold, extreme heat. Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, they don't like
either. Yeah, we know about batteries in Texas, so.
Yeah. Yep. So, another consideration are basic security issues like encryption and that sort of thing. And I would say in general, and you can tell me whether I'm off base or not, I want to stay away from no name brands. I want to get brands that I know and that people recommend for cameras.
Yeah, or at least brands that would suffer if their reputation was tarnished in some way. Right. If it's just like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there are a lot of like these small unknown brands out there that use the same basic interior components, the same basic electronic components from the same, manufacturer in factory in China, and even the software is the same basically, including the default passwords. And what we've seen in the past is people get these, they put them on their network, they don't bother changing the password. And there are websites devoted to, lists of these cameras in people's homes that you can, peep in because the passwords are default. So something to consider. That's my main consideration is if you're gonna get one, you want something that has, that the security is pretty good, that like their reputation will suffer if they have a breach, and but always change the default password on everything. Don't leave anything in default password.
Yeah, if the Amazon listing doesn't have a brand name in it, or the brand name isn't first in the Amazon listing, you can probably...
Or you can't pronounce it?
Well, I'm okay with not pronouncing it, but if it doesn't even list a brand name, you can probably skip it.
If it's just a bunch of random, letters, which is often...
that's what I meant.
Yeah. Or if it just says pet dog baby camera and doesn't give you a brand name.
You want something at least somewhat recognizable. So let's talk about some of these cameras that you've mentioned some that you like already.
I don't know that we need to go into super duper detail on them, but we can put them in the show notes. But it was when Father Son mentioned that he was using Tapo cameras, and he mentioned some way of integrating them that I'll have to look into. But and I looked on Amazon, and they had just their basic one for $15, and I was like, well, $15, that sounds like fun. So I picked it up and was pretty impressed with that and the app, plus like I mentioned, I use a lot of their, smart switches and smart bulbs under their Casa brand. And so then I picked up one that like pan, tilts and zooms. And that one's a lot of fun because if it detects motion, it'll actually track it. It turns like an eyeball following the motion. And I was like, ooh, that's neat. And then I wanted to try one of their, because I like, solar gizmos. I wanted to try one of their solar powered outdoor cameras. And so I picked up one of those, and we'll mention that in the show notes as well. It was like under $50. And I was impressed with, the hardware itself, the solar panel, the mounting options that came in the box. You do have to attach, you can either mount the camera and the solar panel as one unit, or you can mount the camera and mount the solar panel up to 20 feet away. It comes with a nice long cord, so I like that as well. And we took a trip with the younger kids, but left our older kids home, and they're having friends over, so it was good just to be able to see when the friends were leaving and arriving. And
how many there were,
which cars were still in the driveway, that sort of thing. So, I've been impressed with those. But like I said, I've had, an older generation Wise camera just sitting on the side of my house, granted in a little plastic case for over 5 years, and it's still going strong too. So, those can be good as well, but less attractive now that they put a lot of their features behind a paywall.
You mentioned the pan tilt zoom. That can be really handy as a feature. I forgot to mention that earlier, but being able to remotely look around a room or look around your yard, it can be very useful too.
One of my clients had a couple of pan tilt cameras that they had gotten. They did not necessarily get a good brand. At any rate, evidently every time they turned on and off, it would reset and tilt down. So it was broken. And then the next thing was it was supposed to have a firmware update, and the website was no longer there. So at that point, they became useless.
Yes. Again, another danger of no-name brands. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that takes me back to the days of the first Wi-Fi cameras, like I mentioned, over 10 years ago, where you had to manually apply the firmware, and all of that. But there was something nice just about being able to have so much hands-on, to the camera itself, to the camera software itself through the web server and stuff. But
right,
you don't get that so much anymore. But I guess it makes up for it with convenience. Yes,
convenience and price. Yeah. All right, so that is our discussion of inexpensive home security cameras. If folks have any additional questions, we'll be happy to field those in future episodes. But we'll put links to everything we've talked about, including an issue that came up with the Eufy brand of cameras from Anker, which is a beloved company I talk about all the time. But they have their Eufy brand had a security issue. Even HomeKit Secure Video capable cameras can have that security issue. So if you're interested, check that out. They've since said that they fixed the problem, but take that with a grain of salt, I guess.
Well, and be aware that you need to keep updated on things to make sure that if there are issues, that you get the fix.
Yes, update the firmware, like everything else these days. You got to be constantly updating the firmware. I have to update my grill every once in a while, which is kind of really weird.
That's weird.
Like, I just want to cook something. We'll do that later. All right. So let us move on to first thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including Dan F., Nancy A., James C., Dino S., and Renee N. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. This StarQuest show is also brought to you by Exodus 90 and the Exodus 90 app, a daily companion to help you grow closer to God and to become the man you want to be. This summer, join the Enthronement to the Sacred Heart, the Exodus 90 Summer Book Club, and St. Michael's Lent, beginning August 15th and leading up to the Feast of St. Michael the Archangel on September 29th. Go to exodus90.com/SQPN for a 14-day free trial to the Exodus 90 app and to learn more about St. Michael's Lent. That's exodus90.com/SQPN to join us for St. Michael's Lent starting August 15th. So our first headline, this is kind of fun if you don't live in San Francisco. So San Francisco is the home of a lot of testing of self-driving car fleets. They have self-driving, Uber-ish, taxi-ish things called from Waymo. And apparently at night, the cars, when they're not in use, they are all parked in these together in parking lots or parking structures. And in this one particular neighborhood, as the Waymo cars pull into the lot, they sort of beep at each other as they're maneuvering around, sort of maybe as alerting the other cars that they're there. They're sort of communicating with each other. But at 2:00 in the morning, and the residents of these buildings nearby, taking video of all these cars honking at each other, dozens of them. And I just can't imagine, some people have a good humor about it. But Waymo, can you you do something. Others are really irate, as I would be if they were getting woken up in the middle of the night. But Waymo says we've identified the cause, are in the process of implementing a fix. But it's the modern world we live in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's really, they're just waking up and they're becoming sentient, and this is the first wave.
I, for one, welcome our honking overlords.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the Twilight Barky of the Twilight honk, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it kind of points to the larger issue of just the ways we need to, the bigger considerations that come into play when you take these ideas and inventions and you put them into real life use. I can imagine the engineers sitting down saying, okay, so when the cars are maneuvering around each other, how about if we make them honk at each other so that the sensors can understand where it is in relation?
Kind of echolocation, almost.
without consideration of when this might be happening and who else might be having to hear it. It's just one of those things. And
maybe adjust the volume or the pitch, or just make it really low, but it still carries.
Right. I wasn't clear on whether it was we're doing this because we're communicating among like cars, or if it just does it with any car nearby. Like, so if there was like a regular human-driven vehicle, just honking, "Hey, I'm here." I don't know if that was the case, but
maybe so. Kind of like the things that back up and have the little alarm, whether there's anybody behind them or not. Yeah.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yep.
It should be easy to patch out, though. They can just do a over-the-air software fix.
Yeah.
What's more amazing is like, why didn't they do that like the first week? I don't know how long this has been going on, but it's okay, sorry. Yeah, we'll just push the don't honk, after 1 a.m. patch.
Well, clearly none of the Waymo engineers live near these parking lots. Maybe it just is they're just getting around to, people getting around to finding who to complain to. But yeah, this is the thing. I mean, you got to get these things out into the real world. All right. So there's another headline I want to cover. This is from my hometown paper, the Boston Globe. Scammers took over a woman's T-Mobile phone number after she died. Now, it's a little more than that. So what happened is this: you have these two sisters, and one of them is the director of IT at this company. So she's pretty tech savvy. And her sister passed away earlier this year. And several weeks after her sister died, she started noticing activity on her accounts, on her bank accounts, because she was still, getting things settled with the estate. And long story short, in Massachusetts, death certificates are public records. And apparently what the scammers were doing was looking for obituaries online, getting a hold of the death certificates, contacting T-Mobile, and getting them to transfer the phone number of her phone to them, which they shouldn't do without several layers, several forms of identification. And then once you have the phone number and you have text messages to that phone number, you can then take over all the rest of the accounts by doing "I forgot my password." And so that's what they were in the process of doing. They were taking over her IRA, her bank accounts, all this stuff. Now, they didn't, the sister who was survived was savvy enough to figure this out pretty quickly and got things locked down. She went to the bank. Luckily, they have a local bank instead of a big, international conglomerate. And so she was able to talk to a human being, a vice president, and they took care of things. They locked down the account and they did all kinds of things. But so it's hard to say exactly what would be the thing that she could have done differently. One of those is, just make sure that the people in your life have access to your accounts, so that when someone close to you dies, you need to immediately start. The most important thing is that phone number. Lock down the phone number, their phone. What do you guys think of this story?
Yeah, I mean, it's awful, and you can't fault the scammers' entrepreneurial spirit. You just wish that they'd use it for good instead of evil. Losing a loved one, there's so much you have to do in the wake of that. Clearing up finances, planning, services, and this is just, I guess, one more thing. And it's horrible that people would take advantage of people who have died and their grieving relatives in such a way.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know we were, several of us were involved in classes for senior citizens talking about what you need to do to have account information and passwords and all those things available to your relatives, putting them in the same place where your will is in the home, and make sure that your family knows where that is, with lists of accounts, with, as I say, passwords, bank statements, if that would help them to track some things down, etc.
I want to reiterate too, just we've talked about this before, and this just illustrates it again, how central to everything our phones have become. Our phones are the linchpin to our security and privacy in our
identity.
lives. Yeah. I mean, if someone gets your phone, whether physically or cloning the number, they've got, that's the key. That's the key to everything. So I think we need to start to be, more of us need to be aware of that, and we need to educate the people in our lives how vital that phone is, and make sure, for example, that more than one person has access. With Apple, they have the new iPhone Legacy program, where you designate someone as your legacy contact, so that if you die,
it's only one person, though.
Yeah,
it'd be nicer if it were multiples, but
right.
Yeah.
But if you die, then with a death certificate, and there was a second piece of information that they want, you can get access to everything, including the iCloud account and all that sort of stuff. Like you can access, but you need those two vital things. So, yeah.
And you have to know about doing it before, you can't do it later.
Right.
It's a setup before.
Right. You have to do it now. So don't delay on that. So, all right. So our next headline is from The Verge, and this has been all over lately. Google threatened tech influencers unless they prefer the Pixel. So the new Pixel 9 phone is out, and we should definitely talk about that on the show sometime soon. But there was a big kerfuffle when some content creators on TikTok and YouTube and bloggers were required in a form to fill out to get access to the phone, that to make some promises. Under the title of brand love, they were told they had to agree to this statement. By opting into this program, do you acknowledge that you are expected to feature the Google Pixel device in place of any competitor mobile devices? Please note that if it appears other brands are being preferred to over the Pixel, we will need to cease the relationship between the brand and the creator. Now, that was initially thought like that they were telling reviewers that we won't let you review, give you review models if you don't, say that you love the Pixel, which is kind of crazy, because any reviewer worth his salt is not going to agree to that. But it turns out it's part of this Team Pixel program, which is separate from their product review program. But this is about putting Pixels in the hands of, like I said, TikTokers and Instagrammers and whatnot, in order to have them use it to create content and showcase the Pixel. Is this egregious, or the tempest in a teapot?
So Google is sending them like free phones or something to.
Yep.
And these phones cost like $1,200.
Yep.
And what Google's asking is that you take this free phone worth over $1,000 we're sending to you and feature it in some videos. But also,
and don't talk about the competitors. That was the thing.
That's the big one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just gave you a $1,200 phone.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, in musicianship circles, right? Where like you would have an artist and they would be like a Yamaha artist, or a drummer would be sponsored by, a drumstick company, right? And they would send them product to use, with the understanding that, hey, you're going to use our product. The logo is going to be there when you do your concerts and stuff. And you're not going to take our money and our products and then suddenly start putting somebody else's logo on your drum kit, right? I mean, I mean, and you have the option. I mean, you can opt out of any agreement, but if that's, if they're sending you something for free and you say, yes, I will feature it and I won't, feature other phones, I think you have an obligation to do that, or they can just sever. And it's not like they're going to sue you. They just won't send you more free phones.
So I think a couple of things at play. One is that this was a new.
So I'd make
wrinkle.
a terrible influencer, by the way, because.
Well, so
you're not going to get your next iPhone. I'm sorry.
This is on both parties. I think for one, this was a new wrinkle that they added this year. They didn't make this requirement in the past. And Google, this was done by an agency working for Google, and then Google walked this back, so they shouldn't have done this. But I think it's also a little bit on the content creators, because some content creators were treating this like as a review copy. Like, I'm a reviewer. I want to be Marquez Brownlee or, one of these, Linus Tech Tips. I want to be a reviewer like them. And this is my way of getting the stuff early for free and then writing a review of it. But now with this language, I can't give an honest review anymore. Like, Marquez Brownlee didn't get this language because he's, or PC Mag or, Android Central or any of those, places, The Verge, says that they didn't get this language and would refuse the phone if that came under those conditions as a journalistic ethics thing. But I think some of these content creators have visions of becoming tech reviewers, and that's where I think they've created a problem for themselves, because Google didn't see them as tech reviewers. It saw them as just content creators. So there's a little bit of that in there.
Everybody wants something for nothing. And if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Yes. So I think it teaches us that we need to, treat some of these tech reviews, especially by people who don't have huge followings, with a little bit of grain of salt, because, they may or may not be unbiased.
They're promoting.
Yeah. I mean, and I see that all the time with music gear too, right? Where the people manufacturing like, synthesizers and, groove boxes and samplers have figured out that they can send their product to people who make hour-long videos featuring them. And the question in my mind is, they say, well, they did send me this for review. My question is, did you package it back up and send it back to them when you were done? Or did you get to keep it? And nobody discloses that, really. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you get to keep the product, then it's not an unbiased review.
Yeah.
So our last, we have 4 headlines this week just because they couldn't resist this last one. This is a paper from the National Bureau of Economic Research, and it's titled "Looks in Gaming: Who and Why." And here's the brief that they presented. We investigate the relationship between physical attractiveness and the time people devote to video computer gaming. Average American teenagers spend 2.6% of their waking hours gaming. I think that's on the low side, frankly. Well, for adults, this figure is 2.7%. Using the American Ad Health Study, we show that adults who are better looking have more close friends. Arguably, gaming is costlier for them, and they thus engage in less of it. Physically attractive teens are less likely to engage in gaming at all, whereas unattractive teens who do game spend more time each week on it than other gamers. I will go on. What do you guys think? Is this nonsense?
I think the key word there is arguably, because anytime you read a brief or something in the news, like study says this, immediately you start to have questions. It's like, oh, attractive people. Well, how do they measure or engage attractiveness? You have to go to the study itself. You have to open it up and you have to scroll down 3 pages and you find out that, oh, by attractiveness, we had our field researcher like write down on a scale of 1 to 5 how attractive they thought they were, the person was.
It's completely subjective.
They're not using, it's completely subjective. They're not using like, well, AI models, their faces are symmetrical and we run it through a database. So no, it's just whatever the person interviewing the people thought was attractive that day. And then they're like, well, how do they know how many friends they are? Well, people self-report, like, I have 10 close friends. Oh, so people who would conventionally be attractive think they have a lot of friends,
Right.
it's so a better
Laughable.
conclusion. Yeah, a better conclusion would have been, people the field researcher find attractive are narcissists who think they have a lot of friends. But it's
Well, it almost sounds like that somebody is on the soapbox of, if you spend a lot of time video gaming, you must not be very attractive or have any friends. You know, kind of a put down of video gamers.
This is where someone wrote the conclusion before they did the study.
Yeah, it really, I mean, everybody games, every teenager, you know, I don't know if but there's so many across such a wide range of demographics, and, you know, attractive. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah. It's kind of, it's dumb. It plays into the stereotype, doesn't it? You know, at this idea that, you know, nerdy gamers are unattractive, whereas, you know, the kids who eschew gaming are the hip, cool kids. Yeah, that the researchers wanted to hang out with when they were in high school or something. So it'd also be good. I'm not looking at the study. I don't see it jumping out at me. Like, if they disclosed who funded the study. It also hasn't been peer reviewed yet. So if, you know, whatever you think, peer reviewing and stuff. But.
So maybe it was this group of parents that says, we want to discourage our kids from video gaming, so let's fund this study.
Look, Johnny, if you keep video gaming, all it's going to do is prove that you're unattractive. You should stop video gaming, because then you get all the girls, right? That would be that would be the argument. All right, silly. And that does it for our headlines this time. And so let's move on to our picks of the week. And Pat, what is your pick this week?
Well, I got something because my phone mount in my car kept falling off, because it was a suction cup, and I've replaced it a couple of times, but it kept falling off. So I thought, well, let's try something different. So I got one of the it seemed well reviewed ones that could either clip onto the vent, or it could go into the CD player and use that as the base to keep it steady. And I'm at this how shall I say, the results aren't all in yet, because when I was putting it into the CD player, about every hour or two, it would fall out of the CD player and my phone would end up on the floor. Okay. The vent is a screw-on type thing, which tightens it onto the vent, as opposed to a clip, which actually has a little arm that would keep it in. So it has a tendency to vibrate out, but I think I've finally gotten it as tight as it can get, and it hasn't dropped out in the last 2 days. But I didn't want to permanently mount it on the dashboard. So I'm not really sure yet, but so far it's helping.
Okay. Just looking at the which particular model is the. I had something like this in the past. I don't love putting it on the vents because it blocks the vent, and in the winter it's blowing hot air on it, not, I mean, in the summer, great, it blows cold air on it and cool it off, make it work better. But in the winter, it's blowing hot air on it, and I don't love that. So
well, the nice thing about it is you can just raise your phone down and it opens up, and then it closes it to catch the phone in the little cradle. So it's very nice and easy to put in, not like some of the ones that I've had to, twist and clamp in.
Right.
So that part was nice.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm always looking for a decent phone mounts. I use the MagSafe ones now, but for my iPhone. But that.
I've seen some others that had a little clip that went down and back and held on to the vent from the back, and I think that would probably be more stable. But as I say, so far it's holding.
I never liked the suction cup ones. They always fall off the windshield. It's terrible.
Yeah.
All right, Victor, what's your pick this week?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to do is collect inexpensive multi-tools that have some innovative gimmick or feature to them. And by small, I mean basically the size of what you would think of as a small Swiss Army knife. And a lot of them now are coming in kind of a rectangular form factor, which is flat, so it fits in your pocket a lot better. Has a nice pocket clip, so it stays in there. And the one I'm featuring today, not compensated in any way, speaking of being an influencer, is the NEX tool, NEX tool E1. And this is a really clever little one. It's about the size of a full-size Bic lighter. It has a screwdriver with a reversible Phillips or, straight cut bit that's held in there with a magnet. It has like a little knife. It has a pretty good scissors, a file. But the feature on it that I really like is that it has a second knife on it, which is basically a little X-Acto knife. It's a hobby or a craft knife with a removable, interchangeable craft blade on it. And so this has been really helpful for like cutting paper, vinyl, sticking a knife blade into places where it has no business going, like my phone's charging port to get gunk out of it. But I really like the form factor. It's small. It's like $25. No pliers on it, but it does have a good pair of scissors. Like I said, 2 blades, a screwdriver, a file, and it's like I said, I just really like the size and the shape of it. So
That's
if you
cool.
need something small to just stick in your pocket that doesn't have small little blades, or if you do cut a lot of paper, do a lot of crafting, and just say, "Gosh, I wish I had an X-Acto knife blade on me," it's pretty good for that.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. I also collect small multi-tools. It's a habit I've gotten into, which can be expensive after a while.
I do like the description that you said you posted here that said it was engraving as well. I thought, that would be cool to, you could scratch your Social Security or whatever into something.
Yeah, the Amazon description is pretty funny, but yeah, I guess you could use it to engrave. But yeah, and if you have like one of those vinyl cutting tools, like one of those paper vinyl cutting tools, and you need to weed that and pop out the little things in the middle there, it's good for that too. But yeah, it's pretty nifty.
Nice.
Like, what does this one do? Oh, and it has like this weird scrapey thing. It has a bottle opener and then this other thing, which I guess you could use to scrape plastic residue on things, but who knows?
Yeah, they always like, we need another tool so just, that's a weird shape, just throw that in there. All right, so my pick this week is something that was really handy when I was I went to Washington DC earlier this year for the March for Life, and when I travel, I find it difficult sometimes to have to deal with, because I usually have a laptop, an iPad, my phone, and then I had my daughter's with her iPad and her phone. And especially if you're in a hotel or an Airbnb, but like hotels especially, like they usually have like those captive pages
portals.
where captive portals. You have to sign in a web browser when your device connects to it. So what I got here is the gli.inet Pocket Wireless Travel Gigabit Router. It has 2 Ethernet ports. It has powered via USB, and it's Wi-Fi 6. So, it's got all those features. But what's nice about it is it has built into it several applications, several different pieces of it has a built-in VPN client and server, VPN server. It also has built-in WireGuard, which is network security, Cloudflare. And one of the things it does is it lets you log into captive portals from within the router. So what you do,
cool.
You get to the hotel, you connect to the hotel's internet network with that, and then you just connect your devices to this. And that way your devices are also, protected from the hotel network. Whenever you log onto like some of these public networks, you can see who's got publicly facing, open folders or AirDrop or whatever going on there. So it's really nice. It's got built-in Tailscale support as well, so you can connect back to your home network, and so it's got a lot of features. And there's several different ones available, but this some with more features, some with less. This was the middle range at about $86. And so if you travel, if you need to work on the road, it has ad blocking, by the way, too. Like it has a built-in ad blocker, tracking blocker. So I mean, it's really a nice little router. Frankly, I mean, probably would be decent for like a dorm room, even that sort of thing.
Sounds like it has a little Linux box in there.
Yeah, I mean it's got like a pie hole and whatever built into it. So it's got a lot of features. So it worked really well when I was using it. So that's my pick this week.
Neat.
So that does it for us this time. We would love to get your feedback on anything we've talked about, which you can send by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC268. This is episode 268 of Secrets of Tech. Be sure to follow the Secrets of Tech in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, at the StarQuest YouTube channel, where you should make sure to hit the bell to get notifications. And until next time, Pat Scott, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you for having me.
And Victor Lambs, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.